I went to my doctor recently for a checkup, and we used to do that sometimes together.
Besides, Mom
with our mother. But anyway, I went alone, and the doctor said that my cholesterol was a little high. And so he said that I have to start working out. And I said, well, I don't like working out. And he said, no, you have to. I said, well, what about walking? And he said, no, walking doesn't do it because you need at least 20 minutes of a very elevated heart rate. So I said, well, what if I just got really nervous? You know, he couldn't think of a reason why that wouldn't work. So what I do is I go to our local CVS like every other day, and I start shoplifting. Which is a big deal for me. I'm a real wimp, you know, and I feel good. After 20 minutes, I put it away, and I just feel good. Good for you, Al. Thank you. That's great.
Well, anyway, so I do some things alone too. Yeah. I mean, now, like, I was in an elevator by myself, and seriously, I was alone, and the doors open, and this cute girl comes in the elevator. Not like a girl, you know, like a girl, cute, like my age girl, you know, like whatever. So she comes in the elevator, and the doors close, and we start going down, and it's silent. And she breaks the silence with, "You smell." Yeah. So I said, like what? And she said, "Bad." So at this point I could tell she was flirting with me. So I was like good bad, like sexy bad. Naughty thing. So then she took a step into the corner of the elevator, and I thought she was trying to play hard to get, you know? So I took a step a little closer to her, and then she pressed some emergency button. It's hard. It is hard. It's very hard. I know, and I actually did have a girlfriend once. It's a long story, but anyway, we lived together, and I shouldn't get into it. But anyway, so we lived together. She was actually a special ed teacher. It's very complex, but she was a special ed teacher at a school for blind children who also had other disabilities. And seriously, thanks for not laughing. That's not funny.
Yeah, that's
anyway, so she worked at the school, and she came back home one night, and she was writing an evaluation about one of her students, and she wrote, you know, is blind, can hardly move left-hand side of body, and then she wrote, and has eczema. And I'm like, you guys know what eczema is? It's like dandruff. It's not that big a deal. Like, I have lots of it. Maybe a little, but it's not a deal. So it's like, why would you put something so petty on a list of already
leave the poor kid alone. He's already blind, you know? Make him feel worse about himself. Like, that would be like, God forbid, getting into a car accident and then waking up the next day in the hospital and the doctor coming over and saying, we had to remove your arm, and you have athlete's foot. Exactly. It's like, who cares? They get over that.
Yeah. Good analogy.
Yeah, thank you.
I like that.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of cars, we talked about subway transportation. Let's talk about the other big form of transportation, driving. Are there drivers here? Do people drive? Yeah? I know in New York, it's not that way. We know how to drive, but we don't have a car. So if we need it, though, sometimes we'll borrow our mother's car.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's funny. And so we were driving here in Manhattan the other day, and I was driving, top of the passenger seat, and we were stopped at a light, and I accidentally took my foot off the brake, and we crashed into the car ahead of us.
It wasn't like a big crash.
It was like a couple miles an hour, but I'd never been in an accident in my life.
I kind of like getting in crashes.
Okay, fine. It was a big deal for me, because I hadn't. So I get out of the car, the guy who I hit gets out of his car, and I went to him and I said, oh, I'm so sorry, sir, you're right, should we call an ambulance or the police? And he just looked at me and he said, no problem, mate, it's a rental. And I said, what? And he said, it's a rental, mate, it's a freaking rental, kick it. And he starts kicking his own car. He's like, spit on it, mate, it's a rental, it's a rental. So I reluctantly, like, spat on it. I didn't want to make him mad, so I was like, it's a freaking rental. And I just love this guy's attitude on life. You know? It's like, if something isn't yours, it's worthless. I love him. Yeah. Anyway, we were walking in a group the other day, and there was this woman in the group, and we passed this hotel, and she said, we passed it, and she's like, oh, that's a really sketchy hotel. And I thought I remembered it being very nice, and so I said, "Are you sure?" And she said, "No, yeah, it's really sketchy." And so then a couple days later, I dropped in at the hotel, and I noticed it was very nice, and I confronted her about it later. And I said, "That wasn't very nice of you. It's a very nice hotel, and you just badmouthed it in front of a lot of people. That wasn't very nice." And she said, "Oh, I meant expensive." And I was like, "That's a pretty big miss." like in front of people, that wasn't very nice.
Defaming this place, this institution.
So I decided I was gonna,
institution, exactly.
So I was gonna like set her up on a date with this really weird guy I know from my local Starbucks. He's really weird. And so I told her, I said, "Oh yeah, he went to Princeton." Because she's like a sucker for that.
Yeah,
she's like, superficial. She would go on it. So she went on the date, and then she came back, and she said to me, she's like, "You know, that was a horrible date. He was really weird. And by the way, he didn't go to Princeton." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, did I say Princeton? I meant prison." Sorry, they're words, you know, I mixed them up. Like,
yeah, sometimes you need get back. Yeah. Anyway, you guys familiar with the phrase "in between jobs"? You know that phrase?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So we really like that phrase a lot.
It's very positive.
It's exactly positive, because you may never find another job again, right? But more like that, you will, right?
You're in between.
Exactly. So, yeah, thank you. That's all right, don't worry.
Thanks.
So, you know, we feel like you can apply that to other areas of your life. For instance, you know, if you're single, you can say, "I'm in between, you know, girlfriends or boyfriends," right? Or if you've been sad for a long time, you might say, "Oh, I'm just in between joyous times."